Okay, we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. For those that are subscribers and those that are just passing by, just viewing this, thank you so much. I wasn't sure what to title. Well, I knew, but anyway, I'll change the title of this video later on as it uploads to YouTube. But we are going to talk about fear. Fear is the topic. But before I even get started, I have some beautiful souls with me. I have Bree and I have Katie, if you guys want to say hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Glad to be here, world.
Oh, my cat said hello too.
Yes, I'm going to put their contact information below after we're done. They're amazing healers, intuitives. They do offer amazing services. And Bree, I know you're going to start helping people with getting their websites started. She's amazing with webinars, and she's just my tech girl. Anytime I need some sort of a tech issue, need help with that, I always message Bree. So
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Walked me through many issues.
Techie stuff is fun for me.
Yeah, it is fun. Yeah, I have fun learning it from you. And so, yeah, so I'll have their information below. Okay, so fear. Well, it is a huge topic. So I'm going to start with really the 5 wounds. The 5 wounds that all of us, doesn't matter who you are, have within our soul. And these wounds are mostly where fear comes from. And in each lifetime that we incarnate into, we get an opportunity to heal and release these wounds. We meet people from all walks of life that bring out these fears, these wounds that we have with each situation. In any relationship that you've ever been in, you have experienced at least one of these. Oh, so I'm going to list them. So we have fear of rejection. We have fear of betrayal. We have fear of rigidity, and that one is all about justice. You know, having fear that whatever situation you're in, there wouldn't be any justice in it. We have fear of humiliation. I think I named them all, right? Betrayal, humiliation, rejection. I think I mentioned that. Rigidity. Did I miss anything, Katie? Oh, I did miss one. I remember.
I was going to say there's one more. There's only 4 that you listed.
Fear of abandonment.
Yeah, big one.
Okay. So these are the fears. These are the wounds that we have in our soul, in our hearts, that we are working through in this life. And these are the fears that come into play that slow you down, that take you on a different path. Not to say that it's a wrong path. It just detours you because you have these fears and you don't know how to recognize it, how to deal with it. And so, yeah, I'm going to start off with that. And so with me, I have experienced all of these in this lifetime, in certain relationships, if not one, all of them. And the biggest one that I've had to deal with lately or in this life is fear of betrayal. And that is also what stops me from opening up to people. It stops me from taking a chance. And so, yeah, I'm going to stop it there, and I'm going to let you guys go on.
Well, I've definitely experienced every single one of these. And it's funny because I just came to a place in my life recently where I started to identify with these fears and realize that they were actually fears that I had, because most of my life I went through sort of not thinking that I had many fears, and that I was really able to kind of, and it kind of just seeped out into my life in different ways. Like, I didn't perceive that I was being fearful, but because deep down these were the fears that I was experiencing, it played out into my actions. And so, the way that let me give an example, like being selfish in certain aspects, or really not being able to see other people's part in things, or your own part in things, because you're afraid of humiliation, or you're afraid of that rejection, or being like overly codependent because you're afraid of abandonment. So I would play myself out in these types of ways because I've been so fearful. And then when it was able to be brought to my attention that I actually, had these fears, then I was able to sort of start giving them up and working with them and actually using it to my advantage, because fear can be a healthy thing too, in my opinion. We have a healthy fear of things, and it can keep us doing what we're supposed to be doing. It can be really good motivation to be where we want to be at in life, but there's a balance between it. And I feel like that balance comes from our higher souls, and from our spirit, where we really dig down and we find out where that genuine balance comes from. Because, then it can be swayed too far the other way. Like I said, with me, my actions coming out of being like overly codependent, or, fear of rejection or humiliation. So I'm just sort of being like selfish in the way that I do things. And also too, with the rigidity and the justice, that for me comes out in like being super stubborn and overly opinionated, because, I really want, I want justice to be served. And I think that this is the right way and it has to be the right way, instead of really just kind of going with the flow. And like, that was my fear of lack of control. Like, I wanted to be in control of these situations, and I wanted them to end up the way that I wanted them to end up, because I was fearful of letting up that control and letting up those reins, when really, like, there's just this divine plan of the universe that when you sort of like let go a little bit, that things kind of play out a little bit better than I could have perceived them. When I first got into spirituality and started like first getting into this stuff, I used to call like myself being in alignment the domino effect, because it's like you flick one domino into place and then everything else kind of like gets right into place. And so for me, like, I try to check to get in that domino effect. I check where my alignment is, and for me, that's giving up these 5 cycles of fear, and it actually, for me too, it's comforting to know that it's something that, being human, we just deal with, because at times I felt really isolated, and I felt really by myself experiencing these things. And I felt like I was really the only person maybe like experiencing some of these things. But when we talk about it, or when I've talked about it with people, and finding out that there's so many other people that are on the same page as me, or have experienced something very similar to what I've experienced, it just makes it a lot easier to feel accepted and to not have to feel overwhelmed by these fears, because we can I can let fear take over me, and it becomes like this monster, but really, like, telling on it and talking about it and bringing it out into the open is what brings a lot of relief for me as well. But for right now, that's all I got. Bree, if you want to say
Thank you both. Wow. This is a really essential topic, I feel. So I'm glad that this was chosen for tonight. It's kind of putting me in a position where it's like, okay, to talk about this, because I'm actually in the process right now, as other people may be, where I am processing and acknowledging and shining lights on these aspects of myself that I haven't really been acknowledging, and fear has been a part of that. So I'm like, we're always continuously on this path of self-expansion and self-awareness. And I'm in this just kind of awkward place right now because I'm really addressing these parts that I haven't before, you know, these shadow aspects, or, you know, whatever you want to call them. I agree with how it was said that fear is essential. You know, Katie said that there can be positive types of fear that are, essential wasn't the right word, but fear can be a good thing. Because, I mean, if you think about it in just like the base way, from survival instincts, being in a physical plane like this, you kind of need fear, because if you're, you know, a little rodent that's running away from a bird, you need to like be scared and run so that you can get away from the bird and not get eaten. So, you know, like there are some very vital aspects to fear. And I think if we put those dire terms into play for our own human experiences, if we're in a position that we really are not comfortable with, it can arise fear in us. But ultimately, all of this stuff is just bubbling up for us to acknowledge it and to see it for what it is, you know. And that's the one thing about fear, where it's like fear is just like anything else. I mean, right, if we talk in terms of quantum physics and the fact that everything is just energy, emotions are also just energy, thoughts are just energy, and fear is just an energy that may arise for a particular reason, but it doesn't, it's not a thing in and of itself. It's not, fear is not like some tangible monster that's coming to get you or something. You know, fear is just an energy. And with all of these things, with all of these aspects of ourselves, we just have to acknowledge them and shine the light right in their face. You know, look at them right in the face. If we acknowledge, first of all, that we have a fear about something, that's beautiful that we're even acknowledging that we're that aware that we can even see that that is something that has been affecting us in probably a way that we do not any longer desire if we're becoming aware of it. But the second part, after acknowledging it and seeing it, is just looking it in the face and thanking it. I think that that's the most important thing that I can say this whole video, is that we have to start appreciating all of these aspects of ourselves. And fear is definitely a big one. If you look at how things have been run in the world, there's been a whole lot of fear and a whole lot of focus on fear. And that has been for a purposeful reason. You know, you turn on the TV, you look at the news, what do you hear? Fear, 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 and then fear, and here's some more fear sprinkled on top of it. Oh, and do you want to go outside? Well, here's the things that you should be afraid of, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So it's like, that's kind of been a controlling, a pushing factor in our world up until this point, you know, has been focusing on fear, controlling people with fear. You know, and it's even gone down to the medical industry, and oh God, I can go on about this forever. You know, be afraid of getting bit by a bug because you're going to get some disease, because we're the big masters that are telling you this, and you might as well be afraid. Keep that vibration low so that you can stay sick and unable to, you know, be happy and move on with your life purpose. So I think that when we start to just acknowledge these things and just see them and be like, okay, I see you. You know, I had heard somebody say recently, who was it? Gosh, I can't remember. Somebody was like, I think it was Wendy. I think it was Wendy. And Wendy's like, you know, in a dark space, it's a lot scarier to be you know, moving around and kind of groping and feeling and trying to figure out where you are and not knowing where the spider is hanging out and just being afraid because you can't see anything and you just have to feel around, than it is to just shine a light, see exactly where the spider's at and be like, oh, look, you're a little spider. Okay, well, I'm in a big dark room, but you're a tiny little spider and I'm a lot bigger than you, so I really have nothing to be afraid of. You know, it's that sort of awareness and spotlight, putting that spotlight, illuminating these things, because if you illuminate them, then they have nowhere to run and hide. You know, it's all just you. Everything is just you. The entire universe is you, and we all have this ability to really shine this light on all of these parts of ourselves that perhaps we didn't want to before because it was uncomfortable or it was unpleasant or it was scary, you know, and that's okay. It's beautiful. It's a part of this human experience. So, gosh, I'm going to stop for right now because I feel like I'm rambling, but yes, it's just
no, that was perfect. Thank you so much. I have lots of notes. And shout out to Wendy, Languages of Light. I'm glad you mentioned her. Love you. Okay, so, gosh, the very last thing you talked about, Bree, when you said illuminating it makes a lot of sense, because why are we here? We're here not only to complete our missions, but in that process, we're here to go to many places, to the deepest, darkest places that exist within us, and then shining our light. This is how expansion takes place. You know, like you grow through facing your fears, experiencing discomfort, you know, just for a little bit, and then you have that knowledge, that wisdom, you know, you can do it, and you expand, and you go on to the next one. Having these fears. Okay, I have so many notes. Okay. I want to address the empaths right now, actually. Because this is something that I also experience. You know, when you are walking this earth with an open heart, or your heart is picking up other people's energy, it's really not an easy thing. You're picking up everyone's emotion, you know, you're merging with their vibration, and now you are in a shit place and you don't know how you got there. And so, and I'm still learning through this, but learning to shield yourself. And it doesn't mean, you know, with your crystals or whatever. I mean, if that's what helps you, that's fine. But also, like, staying close to your heart and doing the little things that make you happy, just to balance yourself out. For me, it's going to nature, going into water, being around animals. That's what brings me the highest amount of joy, and that's what allows me to balance, you know, what I'm feeling out. For others, it could be anything. It could be video games. I am not knocking video games at all. I'm not knocking electronics. Whatever it is that brings joy to your heart, do it. Just do it. Just don't overdo it, you know? Like with anything, when you go into your fears, the dark night of the soul, or whatever it is, and you're facing them, don't get stuck in that energy, you know? Just bring that awareness, like you said, Bree. Have that awareness, and just know that whatever it is that you're experiencing is temporary, you know? These fears don't come up for you to just stay in them and just have a miserable life. They arise within you because it needs to be released. It needs to be felt even. Don't block yourself from feeling these fears and these emotions, because the soul does have a need to feel and experience these things. This is how you grow. This is how you expand. Once again, what can happen when you stay in your fears is you end up manifesting it. So if you had a fear of losing your job, for example, and that's all you could think about. It hasn't happened yet. It's a fear. It may or may not happen, but all you can think about is, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my job. How am I going to pay my bills, my credit, my car, blah, blah, blah. In your mind, you're deep into your fears, and you're actually working on manifesting all of these things that you
Well, looks like she might have paused there.
Yeah. Do you think she'll
Oh,
come back? Hopefully, I think she'll come back, yeah.
she will. I noticed her internet wasn't doing too good at the beginning either. So let's align and breathe.
There she is.
Align the
Yeah.
energy.
Am I
You're back.
You went out, you're back.
Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
I'm recording kind of far from my Wi-Fi, so I hope I don't have any more of these interruptions. And so, like, manifesting your fear is what I was talking about. And so, yeah, you can manifest these fears. And even if you do, don't be hard on yourself. You know, that's what we do. We just continually judge ourselves and say, gosh, I totally make this happen. But sometimes these things happen for us because it's being cleared away. You know, there's something else waiting for you, you know, so just stay positive. And like Bree said, gratitude, thank it. Thank whatever it is that brought this up within you. You know, it's brought up for a reason, for you to feel it, experience it, and release it. Release it, letting go. That's another thing that we need to work on as a collective. I mean, okay, I don't want to say everyone has that issue, but at some point you have had trouble letting go of certain things in your life. Me being one of them, I do struggle with letting go certain things. It could be material things. And so that's another thing that can help us get over these fears. And so we can just move forward and go to the next one, you know, the next experience. I think that's all I wanted to share for now. Oh, one more thing, fear-based decisions. That is another one that's huge, huge. I've seen it with me. I've seen it with others, where we think every situation is the same. Our mind kind of shuffles things that way. It brings it to us, you know, to analyze or whatever. Whenever you have a new experience, you think it's going to end up a certain way. You don't know that. And this is the beauty of staying in the moment, because this is how you get that experience to the fullest. You're going to experience whatever it is that you're going to experience. It could be positive. Always think positive, right? And so the universe, how we say, has a way of surprising you. If you just constantly are trying to predict what's going to happen, you're kind of ruining that surprise for yourself. And things manifest in such glorious ways sometimes. And I know all of you that are watching, Bree even, and Katie, you know, you've been surprised by the universe before, and it surprises you in ways that you wouldn't even imagine. It's miracle. And you get to notice these little miracles in your life that are happening. I do want to share one actually from today. I was at, there's been many, but I was at Whole Foods, and the guy that was checking me out, the cashier dude, asked me, like, have you had coconut butter? I was buying coconut butter. Have you had coconut butter before? How is it? And I told him, you know what? I don't know. I'll let you know. And he said, you know, I'm gonna give it to you for free. And just make sure the next time you come in, you let me know how it is. And I was like, wow, I didn't even expect that. You know, like, it's little things like that that I live for. And only when you are in the moments will you be able to make that connection with another soul. You know, he didn't have to do that, but he did. It's what gave him the greatest amount of joy. And so anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. Whoever wants to go next, go ahead.
I love both of you so much. I love that we chose this topic. I love all of the things that you had to say, and I do have some things to say off of it. But you guys both brought up like some excellent points and some really like good things that just sparked some stuff inside of me. That's like things that I've been going over recently and whatnot, and even some things that people have said to me. But you know, right at the beginning when you Adey gave us those 5 things, what did you call them? Soul life lessons. So it is things that once we're able to kind of get on the other side of it, we're able to grow so much when we can realize it, when we can identify it, when we can call it out. Frequently in the morning, I like to listen to this. It's called Abraham Hicks Rampage. And I love it because she talks about how every day is a unique individual vibration, right? And that within that day, that there's going to be things that is like opposite of what we desire, but we give thanks for those things because it gives us a greater awareness of what we do desire and like what we do want in our vibrational frequency, and we can give thanks for it because, you know, without those opposite sides of the things, we don't know what it is that we want or what it is we don't want. So it's like it's kind of important for us to experience these things because it gives us an idea of what we truly seek in this life, what we actually like are here for. And you know, I think Adey, you said like about the connection, like having that connection, being able to be present and not to try to like predict everything that's going to happen in your life. And also too, because you know, this life is a roller coaster. Like there's going to be things that just aren't perfect vibration, and that's okay. That's like part of embracing our shadow self and embracing and illuminating these dark sides, as Bree was saying. So then like there's this one person that I know that always says everything that I've ever wanted has always been on the other side of fear. And I think that that is so beautiful because it's like literally like we can choose to take fear head on and we can grow from it and we can get to that other side and get the things that we've always wanted, or we can, you know, choose to be beaten down until we learn from that lesson, you know, and we get tired from it, we'll learn from the lesson and we'll like actually be able to elevate to that next step and to move on. Also, I came to my head thinking about I'm sure people have seen this before, but how like they have the like love is the opposite of fear and like the greater than sign in the middle, and like love is greater than fear. But like, so to me, I was thinking, you know, because we all have light and dark, we all have the yin, we all have the yang, and it's like love is like the light side and fear is like the shadow side, but they both incorporate each other in it, right? And so it's really beautiful because love's the highest vibration, and then we kind of like so we know that, so we can get to that high vibration, like we experience all the other vibrations in between and on the other side of the spectrum. So I really enjoyed what you said, Adey, about like being in the moment, because like, you know, that can help us to choose that highest vibration, you know, between the two, and we're always going to experience that opposite side of it, but that's okay because it gives us a greater awareness of, like I said, the things that we do want in life. And then Bree, you were talking about like feeling or like taking on the fears of your economy or of like what you're being told. And then also too, I was doing I got a little bit of research into this stuff, but like getting fear from your genetics, like from your lineage, from, you know, in your genealogy, basically having fears be passed down. I had to break some generational things that were super intense in my life and that I was holding deep down in my root, and I didn't realize it. I thought that they, you know, that it was like deep down in my subconscious, and I didn't really realize that they were a part of my psyche until I did some like soul searching and work with myself and my spirit within. And then I realized that I had these like unnecessary fears that were just stuff that was kind of passed down. And, you know, when I was able to identify it, when I was able to illuminate it, I think, as you said, Bree, shine a light on it, then I was able to start working with it and I was able to start bringing it out. But definitely, I feel like things can be passed down to us, or that it can be like a social factor, an economic factor, you know, or people trying to say with like our physicalities make you worry about that. But you're totally right, Bree. Energy, it's a vibration. And like I said, love is that highest vibration. So if we're choosing on the spectrum of where we want to vibe at, then that can give us a better idea of like where we want to be at with things. And one other thing that I wanted to say about it, and I really like too that you touched on, Bree, about fear being that base, that root chakra, because I was just going through, I actually was watching this, because like addiction's really been a big part of my life, and I was watching this woman speak about energy work and your chakras, and then relating it to addiction, and she was talking about where we hold different types of addictions in each part of our chakra system, because it's an underdeveloped or unworked through thing that we're holding in that area. And that base one, fear, like if you can have fear passed down to you, like you could even have fear from a traumatic birth that you're holding with you in that root chakra, and it can develop, it can come out in ways of like having gambling addiction, shopping addiction, like there's all types of things that we can hold here. And I feel like humans, you know, we have these different impulses, and it's because, you know, of energy that we're holding in any one of our chakras, and it's coming out in these other ways, and we may not identify with the fact that it's like this deep-seated stuff that, you know, we just have to work through energetically. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of touch on that, and I think that's all I really got to say. But gosh, I appreciate both of you and for your insights, because you really, like I said, brought up some stuff that was really good for me to hear as well.
Yay! I wanted to like put a little cherry on top with what you said about DNA, fears passed down and stuff, because as we're understanding more of like this whole multi-dimensional galactic realm, there is no time, all of this stuff. I've even heard of fears, because Adey brought up fears from past lives. And this goes into like, okay, yeah, past lives, but actually just simultaneous incarnation being played out all at the same time, because that's what everything is, you know, no big deal. I had heard somebody say deep-seated fears, like some soul groups will have a deep-seated fear of spiders. Going back to the spider thing again here, synchronistic, because according to this galactic history I heard, which at this point I'm throwing my hands up in the air with everything I hear, but according to this, in the Orion Wars, spiders were used pretty heavily, or spiders were a part of it pretty heavily in doing some of this battling, and it was like, not like these tiny little, no, I'm talking like ginormous spiders. So somebody had been talking about like that specific fear in some people actually correlating with those lifetimes where they were eaten by a spider, or, you know, whatever it was. And then it's playing in this current incarnation where they're just like petrified of spiders and they don't know why, and it actually links back. So then that is probably seeded into a chakra, like you were talking, Katie, whether it be like fears or addictions or whatever it is, you know, these things can actually be blocked in our chakras and just kind of like hanging out, stuck, and waiting for us to address them, waiting for us to shine the light and say, hey, I see you. I love you. Thank you for being here. You've served me very well up until now, even if it hasn't been pleasant. And I get it now, so peace out. And then it's like, it gets to just be released, you know, and that's what we can do with all of these aspects of ourselves and all of this stuff. So I'm gonna step back here for a second because I'm kind of collecting my thoughts on the rest of what I wanted to say, but I just wanted to add that in there with like the genetic and DNA. I mean, because we're learning that DNA is a lot more than we've been told. We're not these 3-strand beings that are, oh, sorry, that car scared me. We're not these 3-strand beings. We are 12-strand beings, but actually a lot more, because we are all that is encapsulated in this wonderful sort of vessel. So there's a lot that can be said about genetic DNA, just in terms of especially like galactic DNA and how all of this stuff really does affect our current experience. So I'll step back for a minute and collect my thoughts. Thank you.
Oh, thank you both so much. So talking about the family dynamic and generational fear that has been passed down to you, I can totally relate to that, because in my family and in my culture, I mean, every culture is run by fear. We can all agree on that. It just differs to a certain degrees. For us, for me, seeking out spirituality, speaking or connecting with the other side is a big no-no. It's a big no-no, even like trying to find who you are, because you're told who you are. This is who you are. This is what you're going to be. And we are the adults and we know better. And so choosing this path, going against all of that, in a way is facing my fears, because I did grow up believing that, if I spoke to anyone that's not on this realm, my soul will be trapped forever, stuff like that. And so, yeah, going on this path has shown me everything that I've ever feared in my life. Have had to face it. And also I experienced really, really beautiful energies, connecting to the angels, connecting to past lives, opening my heart to others and helping them from the heart. I have started living out of the heart, and that can be the most rewarding and the most painful thing that you do in this life, in this realm, but you know what? The rewards outweigh the bad stuff. The bad stuff does need to be felt, and then you release it. So that's what I'll say to that. And then choosing moments, like I think Katie, either you or Bree, maybe both of y'all talked about this. And so choosing to discover your dark side is not totally a bad thing. If that's what the soul is leading you towards, then yeah. But also you can choose to experience the darkness with love. It's when you go into your darkness with your ego, that's when you tend to get stuck in that energy. They just feed on each other, and it keeps you there, and then you lose hope. You lose sight of why you went to the dark side anyway. You know what I mean? That's how you get lost. So don't forget, always approach everything from the heart with love, even darkness. That's another thing I wanted to add. And there was more, but it has left me. It has left me. So maybe I'll take a step back, because I know I wanted to say a lot more, and see what you guys want to say.
Adey, I am so glad that you mentioned vulnerability, because literally, like, that is such a key to being able to take that step to get on the other side of fear. Because a lot of times, we have to be vulnerable in order to overcome that fear. And we're taught in our culture and our society that vulnerability means weakness. And it is such a lie, because literally when we can open up and be authentic and be vulnerable, we can have the most beautiful things unfold. It's like a flower blossoming. Like, we can, like, so much happens, and it's amazing because, but like, it's like a huge feat, because we're taught, like I said, so much that, like, you can't be vulnerable. It's a weakness, and it's also a reminder for me to be gentle with myself, because there's so much that we're programmed to, like, think or do. And for me, like, I have this pre-program in my head of perfection that doesn't exist. And, like, I constantly have to remind myself to be gentle, because I'm here for a human experience, and humans, excuse my language, but we fuck up. That's what we're here to do. Like, literally, we are supposed to make mistakes. We are not perfect. I am not perfect. I never will be. Nat Khan said something great in this video, talking about not vulnerability, but shadow stuff. Actually, it was like shadow stuff, right? And he was like, the master becomes the master when he realizes he doesn't know anything and never will. The student is still the student because it's seeking mastery and doesn't realize that it will never achieve mastery. And I was like, oh my God. Like, so much yes.
That's a mind-blowing experience right there.
Yes.
And doesn't that take so much weight off of our shoulders, right? Because in society, we're told you have to study these things and remember them all, and you have to do everything perfectly or you will fail and die. And you're like, oh God, it's like this whole thing, and it's this cycle. But actually, like, it's beautiful, right? And it doesn't have to go that way. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, but
you're perfect. That's all I pretty much had to say. Like that, it's exactly, and you're right. It does take the pressure off, and I love that because it makes it so much easier for me to just go with the flow and embrace that divine feminine energy of being like, okay, like I've got my structure, I've got, this, but like also I can just allow and let things flow because there's a divine plan, and I can kind of take a step back from trying to like meddle my hands and shit.
So like, how do we deal with fear? Not deal with it, but deal with the aftermath of like facing your fear. Because yeah, you do feel lighter, but we are human and we always go back and think about what just took place, and this is a prime opportunity for you to choose your moment. Don't focus on what you just, got over. Focus on the now. You're okay now. You got over it. You're fine, and you can move forward. So shifting our focus is important. This is how you complete your lesson, if that's what you want to call it. And I think, Bree, you said this earlier, or maybe it was you, Katie, when you said fear is necessary, and I didn't quite understand it when you said it, but now I get it, because it is our greatest teacher, one. And when you said we make mistakes, we do. And this is how fear can help us, because you made a mistake. You faced a fear that you didn't, expect to face. But then the next time around, this lesson comes around to make sure that you've learned it. You have that fear stored within you to remind you, hey, this is what happened. This is what happened last time. Are you sure you want to go through this again? Because you will be tested in that way. And it's all about choosing those moments, and sometimes to just decongest, to release. I do go to nature. I think everyone knows that about me by now. And one of the things that helps me heal when I go to nature is the fact that I feel so small. Feeling small in nature, to me, is the most healing experience I can have, because my problems also become small. There's grander things that you can focus on than manifesting your fears. You're just a tiny person in this whole, like, whatever, miraculous, or whatever, beautiful planet, nature, that is experiencing maybe like a tiny little bump on the road on your journey. You don't have to make that tiny little bump into like an enormous mountain that you have to climb. I feel like sometimes we make mountains out of molehill when we are dealing with our lessons, our experiences, and that's just the mind. And that goes back to the rewiring. We need to rewire, and how we perceive things, how we carry on. You know what I mean? And just viewing whatever that situation is from a different point of view, whatever it is, can help. Yeah, that's I'm gonna leave it at that for now.
I think I'd like to bring up an incredible comedian who has recently turned into a transformative speaker, life coach, or I'm not sure exactly how he titles himself anymore. His name's Kyle Cease. He recently wrote a book called I Hope I Screw This Up. And in that book, he is just talking about, like, he's writing the book, and in the beginning of the book, he keeps going back and forth of like, I don't think I should be writing this. Maybe I should. I don't know. I'm afraid. What if I do something wrong? And he's just like putting his thoughts onto paper, and he published this, and now it's a New York Times bestseller. I'm bringing this up because he was afraid to write a book. He was really afraid, and he's like, oh God, you know, what if nobody reads this? What if this doesn't help anybody? And he goes through all these what if, and all this fear and all this stuff that was stopping him from writing the book. And he ended up writing the book on that topic, and it became a bestseller. And he focuses very much on how he just like had to literally, I mean, he like step into the fear. Like, if this is the fear and this is where you're at, like just plop yourself right in there. Like, just take a big leap. Just jump into it, because, you know, there's no other way to do it. If there's something terrifying that you're just like, oh, what if, and what's going to happen, and you're not being present in that present now moment that we're talking about, where, I mean, that's how this stuff affects us, is if we let ourselves get taken away into moments that don't exist, right? Past moments of, oh, I'm afraid because I had a bad relationship, or whatever it may be, you know, and now if I go out and meet somebody else, I'm afraid that they're going to be just like this past relation, or afraid of walking out your door because of what you heard on the news, or whatever it may be. If you're afraid of all of these things, and you look around in your room, you look around in the building you're in, or you look around outside or wherever you are, and you don't see any of that stuff, is it happening? No. Is there anything to be afraid of? No. Do you need to be afraid? No. You can if you want to be, but you don't have to be afraid, because if you bring yourself to where you are in that moment, and you take a deep breath and you realize, okay, my mind is running all these places and going to all these different situations that could or could not happen or did happen. There's no reason to be afraid of any of it, because it's not happening. All that matters is what's happening right now, like in your very present moment around you, not like something that somebody's saying something's happening, go turn on the news. No, I'm saying like what's actually around you, because the more that we delve into this stuff, the more we realize this physicality that we are perceiving is all that exists for us in each moment, and that's all that there is. And we can take that very far and wide in beautiful ways, but that's all you really need to focus on or care about. And if you go anywhere else, you're just, you know, not helping yourself. Looks like Adey was having internet problems and just stepped out for a second, but I'm sure she will be back. I wanted to bring up Kyle Cease, because he's been extremely motivational, just in terms of, he was like this comedian doing all this comedian work, and he's just like, man, I don't know, I'm a little bit afraid of going to this like transformative speaking thing, but he jumped for it, and he's doing extremely well. And it's so inspiring to see that kind of stuff. You know, anytime we hear of these stories of somebody facing their fears, it's the most beautiful, brilliant, incredible story. There is no story that gets told if somebody sits in the corner shivering, afraid to take a step into their fear, you know. And I can say this from like personal experience. I've blocked myself from so many things in my life out of fear, so many things. And I'm grateful for it now, because it's showing me how far I'm coming and how far I'm really advancing and releasing. And this is another really key thing that I wanted to mention, is when we're talking about all this releasing, you know, and oh, shine a light on it and acknowledge it and thank it and release it and release it and release. And we keep talking about releasing. You're not only releasing that for yourself, this is a collective effort. And everything that we're doing affects the collective. And I'm not just talking human collective. I'm talking like collective of all that is. And that is probably the most beautiful part about it for me is realizing that every tiny little baby step, every time I dip my toe in the water, every time I am doing any sort of work, expanding my own consciousness and releasing energies that no longer serve my highest purpose, I'm doing that. I'm healing. I'm doing that releasing, and it is positively affecting everything that exists. And that is probably the coolest thing that I could say. And it's true for all of us. So like we can look, if we want to like go be of service, you know, and go change the world, we literally just have to focus on ourselves. We just focus on ourselves. We do what's right for us. We follow our heart. We thank that fear and acknowledge it and see it for what it is and go, oh, okay, I see you. Yeah. Yeah. So you're some fear. All right. That's pretty cool. You're doing your job pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and step right up though.
Yeah, you said some good things, Bree. I completely I resonate with a lot of that. On the last thing that you just touched on though too, I like, as you were saying, service to others, and that it helps you to kind of like if you focus on yourself, then you can like get over the fears. Sometimes actually almost opposite of what you said, but exactly what you were just saying. Like focusing on others and being of service to others can help you just completely forget your fears, because it's like you're being of service, you're helping. And that's a really good way for me to be able to do that. And Adey was talking about, you know, like ways that we can kind of get over it. And I really like that you both of you said, and I think I said also, but fear is a really good practice for being in the moment. And that's really like focusing on not the future, fear of the future, or fear of what you've done in the past, but like really sitting and being with that moment. And I think that, you know, for me, the ways that I practice being in the moment is through connecting to my source, and also like through meditation. So like those two ways are really good ways for me to connect with myself, and of course like being in nature too and different things like that. But these are practices that help me to be in the moment, which help me to lose or get rid of these fears. Sometimes also too, because I know Adey was saying earlier that like sometimes she, and I know I have, and I'm sure Bree has had trouble disconnecting from certain situations. So I'll have to do a ritual or routine to disconnect myself from something energetically. In which case, the way that I do that is I imagine myself with an energetic cord connected to whatever it is that I need to disconnect from. And then I imagine that cord being cut and then being sent up to source. And by having that physical imagery